Well, welcome to the first episode of the Event Promoter Podcast weekly format. We're trying something different here where we're just going to sit down with me and a guest. Sometimes that guest is going to be someone from our team. Sometimes it'll be someone virtually again that we'll interview. And the idea is that we kind of can get some more consistency here because people really liked we've had over 1,000 downloads of the podcast already, and we've honestly put almost zero effort into it. So we've interviewed some really awesome people like Heidi Lurera who started Raw Natural Born Artists, who has become a partner with us, and the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival, and Jason Gurel, the designer from Neva.
Yep, so that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Or Lindsay Toussaint with the Omaha Sports Commission talking about hosting some of the biggest sporting events in the world, like including the Olympic swim trials and some world-class events.
That one is a really good one. Yeah. We had Omaha Performing Arts on talking about marketing and their background in that. So lots of really awesome episodes already. So if you are listening to this for the first time or seeing this on LinkedIn or something, go check out those previous episodes. This episode, we're going to try to stick to 15 minutes and talk about one topic.
Probably 17.
I'm going to cut it down to 15 no matter what. So I'm just going to cut you off in the middle of the episode. We have Andrew Prystai, who is the co-founder of Event Vesta. You might not have seen him on camera very much yet because
I'm shy.
He's very shy. Yeah. He's not really that shy, but he's a very busy guy. So it's always hard to pin him down for 15 minutes to.
Well, I'm excited to be here, Craig, and talk a little bit about the event promotion trends report that you've put together.
And if you've seen Andrew's LinkedIn, or if you haven't, go check out his LinkedIn page. He's been posting a lot about his takes on the takeaways from our event promotion trends report that we do every year. This is our second year doing it. It was really cool. We got about the same amount of respondents, but the quality of those respondents really went up. Just like in terms of the quality of events and the number of events and how big those organizations are. Yep. So we got a really nice broad swath of information from about 30,000 events, a little under 50 specific, like very deep responses from different event organizers at different levels.
Yeah. And for the first time, a few really in-depth conversations that we had with select customers all across the country, ranging from, massive festivals with thousands of attendees to small events that they're putting on. So really, to your point, runs the gamut. And it's not just variety based on the industry and the type of event, but also geographic location. Of literally had a response from everybody in every time zone across the United States.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting take on it too. Yeah, so this year, something we did differently with that, instead of just sending out a Google form and saying like, fill this out, we also did that, but we booked time with some of our favorite event organizers, people that had time for us.
Yep.
Or had, just a little bit of time for us, and we're really interested in the report. And Andrew or Elena on our team just did a short little interview with them, basically going through the form, but allowed you to get a little bit more depth from those responses, which some of that might not show up in the actual report that you can find on our website. And we'll probably have that linked below here, wherever you're listening. But you were able to actually talk to them. So you have a lot more nuance to each of these key takeaways, I think, than even I probably do. Just from looking and like analyzing the data. So let's just dive right into that of like, can we walk through just like high level, what are some of the 16 or so key takeaways that we took from the report? And you have identified that there's like 2 or 3 kind of like buckets that those fall into. Can you talk about those?
Yeah, so broadly feels like the key buckets are, 1, what to do about inflation. Obviously 2024, I know we're all feeling it across the board in all sorts of ways, but on the business side, while no one wants to have to raise their prices, the costs of doing business are going up. The cost of hosting events, putting on shows is going up. So have to figure out something to do with that. Right along with that, kind of a 1A, 1B, it's if you're not going to raise your ticket prices, what are other ways to drive that revenue to make up for that shortfall or change your operations to account for that? And then the last one, unsurprisingly, based on what we're doing, based on who we're talking to, is how to do event marketing, and whether that's what automation tools or AI people are using, to what channels they're focusing on. Good, either that they want to do more of this year or that they want to do less of. There's a whole lot of nuanced and deep takeaways there for what people are thinking across the industry and what they're actually doing in 2024 to promote their events.
Yeah, I think I'd almost break those down into 3 different buckets. I would say like there's the revenue and ticket piece, right? Of like basically how do you make enough money to make events profitable for you so that you can keep doing events,
or sustainable if you're a nonprofit.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that people joke about a lot of event organizers joke that even if there are for-profit, they're a nonprofit for-profit, which I like hate hearing that, because I think that means you're a very I mean, I think it means your heart's in the right place, but it also means that you're very much at risk of closing.
Right.
And that's not good for anyone. Like if you are serving a community of people, whether it's music fans or painting fans or people that are just trying to have a good time and connect with other people in their community, like, and you can't build a sustainable business around that, then you're at risk of letting those people down. Like,
Right.
quite frankly,
and you know that firsthand better than even myself with all the different events that you've organized across the country, from the music shows with Happy Heron Presents to Scale Omaha and Startup Grind, where being able to, thread that needle of having it be accessible and open to a lot of people and presenting great opportunities to those either business professionals or those performers.
Yeah.
But also doing it in a way where you're not just, doing it as a hobby basically, and you're just self-funding everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically my goal with all of those is not to lose money. And I think I could, if I was doing it more consistently, like if it was my full-time job, then I would be very focused on how do I get more sponsors? How do I do some of these other revenue forms so that I could make that more sustainable? Because right now it does feel kind of shaky where it's like, I don't know, every show that I do, I'm like, I don't know if I can do another one.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't like to be in that spot. And I think if you're doing this full time or closer to full time, that's a really
lease that you have to pay or
precarious
mortgage on your
your
venue.
Yeah. So there's lots that goes into that. And so we'll dive into some of those in some later episodes.
Yep.
Talking just about the revenue stuff. Cause I think we surfaced a lot of really interesting ways people are finding additional revenue beyond just raising ticket prices. And I think a little bit of adding some confidence to it's okay to raise your ticket prices. I know it sucks. The price of everything is rising. So it sucks to raise your prices on your fans. But like at the end of the day, it's like we're in an inflationary period and that's just how things go.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be the one that takes the hit, and your fans are not going to be happy if you close because you didn't raise ticket prices.
Correct.
And like you said, not everyone has tickets. They might generate revenue other ways. So
right.
There's that interesting bucket. There's also the marketing channels bucket, right? That is what marketing channels we're seeing event organizers using the most, which ones they find most effective.
Right.
I think we had a question. We had some interesting new questions in there this year. Like what, or the one that influencer marketing ended up being the answer to for most people was which one they would do more of if they knew how to, basically.
Yeah, if it was easier.
Yeah. If they had the resources to do it better, resources as in like tools and information.
Yes.
And then we've actually seen a lot of changes in that. So we'll dive a little bit more into that too. Like I think the biggest change for me, we went from, I think I forget the exact number. We'll have to look at the report, but it's something like going from like 4.7 to like 6.4 average marketing channels per event organizer.
Yeah.
So that just shows like people are needing to diversify their marketing beyond just email marketing or just social media marketing. And some are like really sophisticated in the way they're extending that. And some are, just adding one or two additional channels to make it worthwhile for them.
Right. And I think we've seen that continue even since we gather that data, just in conversations with our existing customers and with potential new customers. Just feels like there's something, especially in the last couple of weeks, where it seems like people are really leaning into more of those marketing channels. And I don't know if that's because seasonality is really kicking in here with us getting into the warm summer months where, there's a lot of events that need to get put on. And so now is when they're investing in those marketing channels, or if it's a little bit of that feeling of, hey, the channels that we've relied on in the past, like email or social media to drive those ticket sales, still doing good for us, but it's not enough anymore. And we need to layer on some other ones on top of that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you pointed out before that like the political spending is going to have a big impact on people that are relying on just Facebook ads.
I mean, it already has. Like, Facebook's up like $4 on a CPM this year versus last year.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and it's across every marketing spend channel, because this year is going to be the biggest spending on political ads of any time ever.
Yeah.
By like a lot. And I think the final thing then that you kind of lump together with marketing channels, but I see it a little bit differently, is the AI and automation. Because I feel like those are more like operational tools for a marketing department, and maybe even for like an event organizer's organization entirely, than it is a channel, right? Like I think some people are thinking of AI and they're thinking of it as a channel, but me having experimented with it a lot over the last year, it isn't really a channel, but it is a way that helps you do all of those channels better. So it's more of like a tool, and automation is the same way, where I feel like, our tool is part automation tool, part like reporting and access to a channel, but a large part of it is automation. And there's a lot of other automation tools that we're pretty familiar with too. Being automation nerds, we're like pretty deep in Zapier and some other tools that
Probably too good for our mental health, but yes.
Yeah. But I mean, it helps a lot. We're a very small team of about, what, 5 people?
Yep.
We're about 5 people, and we're able to run an organization that runs pretty efficiently. We're kind of competing, or at least like in the same space as companies that have hundreds of employees.
Right.
And I
That
think
have about the same number of customers that we do to
yeah.
service them.
Yeah. And I think it's a large part because we're pretty good at automation and using automation to run parts of our own business. In addition to that's what we sell to people, there's also like what we do in our own business is we find opportunities to do that, where we're like, why are we doing this manually over and over and over and over again?
Yes.
And the other great thing is like with automation, it's like, not only do you get to get that off your plate, it actually gets done and done right. I think
Yep.
we see in our own business, like it's more likely for us to make a mistake when we're doing it manually,
Yep.
or like keep meaning to get to it and it just never gets done, or it takes too long to get done, versus if we can automate it, it just gets done 100% of the time, and at least at a larger percentage done correctly.
Absolutely. You know, like it doesn't take very long for that to add up and be a positive ROI investment very quickly versus all that manual work for me or you or anyone else on our team.
Yeah, totally. So I think there's a cool podcast episode where we could go into automation, and I actually have some people that I think would be really great that do this really well in the event space that we could bring on for that. And the same with AI. I think obviously there's dozens of different conversations we could have there.
Yeah.
Real quick, what are some of like the ways that from the report or just from what you've been seeing people using AI in the event space?
Yeah, great question. So I would say that it definitely was one of those channels that a lot of people were interested in or heard about, but at least when we had done that in late 2023, gathering all the data, not that many people had actually played with it yet.
Yeah.
The ones
that was very surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, which I believe, I feel like that it's something where we see it because we're really on that bleeding edge of nerding out about AI months before, even ChatGPT 4 was released, and it really hit that groundswell of cultural and, media saturation. So I think for us, we've been talking about it forever, it feels like, but for the general public, it's just now something that a lot of people are getting the opportunity to mess around with. In terms of where they're using it, very much using generative AI to create content seemed to be the biggest place of either they already had something and they just wanted to strengthen it and bulk it up, or just didn't feel quite right. And so they ran it through the GPT to come up with some different angles on it. Not so much on the image side. Mostly people were still creating those by hand because I think there's still some weirdness, especially if you wanted to create people and stuff like that, where it's sometimes just easier to jump into the Canva or just take a stock photo you have from a past event and use that.
Well, something I have seen is like, I think some of the people that are in our system, that are customers of ours, and so we get to see a lot of their marketing materials, that I would consider the best customers, especially the ones that are not a huge organization. They're like a couple people at a brewery that has multiple locations or something.
Right.
I'm thinking of a few at the top of my head that like, but those are the ones that, interestingly, especially in the last couple of months, I've been seeing use generative AI images more and more in there. And it's never just like an image that they made and they post that. They like make an image and they use that in Canva or in Photoshop as part of the, but it punches it up and it really does make it stand out in the event listings or on Facebook or whatever.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's an interesting point. Maybe that's just with the broad availability of these tools
right now, though. It's like super cutting edge. Like,
what are 2 or 3 of the things that you think an event promoter should be leveraging AI to do right now?
I think that I'm going to leave that as a tease for us to have an episode that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So
you should definitely Netflix cut out here.
You should continue watching. I just don't think we have time to get into it. But the images and the descriptions, personalizing your emails where you can segment them and not have to manually spend so much time writing those different segment versions.
Yep.
Those are some of the use cases that I'm seeing people use and that seem like the most effective. But I think we can get a little bit more into like, what does that actually look like?
Right.
I think we say these things that a lot of people are like, how do I literally do that?
Yeah.
And I think we can do some episodes doing that. Yeah. All right. So this is a format that we're going to try to do every week. That was super quick and kind of a lightning round. We'll pick one and go a little bit deeper on those ones in the future. And I'm going to try to get more people onto the podcast that can talk, instead of talking about their career broadly, get them to come on and talk about one specific topic for 15 minutes and really do a quick deep dive.
Yes.
So like, that's what you can expect from the show now is quick deep dives. And thank you, Andrew, for covering kind of the broad overview of what the event promotion trends report looks like. If you want to check out the specifics of this, you can check that out at vesta.fund/report. report, I think. The link will also be down in the description wherever you're listening to this.
Yes. And we want to thank everyone that participated in that, whether it was on those long form interviews or just filling out that form. Really appreciate all that feedback and you being willing to share some of that information with us and giving us permission to share that anonymously writ large. And if you're a new listener to the podcast or a longtime one, and there's a topic that you'd love to hear us talk about, shoot us an email at podcast@eventvesta.com with your topic suggestion or idea, and we'll try to work it into a future episode.
Awesome. Well, now I'm going to have to go set that email up, but we'll do it. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a great rest of your week.
Bye, Craig.